Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Tales of Herding God Part 264 to 266 based on novel. So let's start. Qin Mu sobered up, and he muttered under his breath, "Put my heart back at ease. I don't even know where my corporeal body is now, or if it's still alive. My heart is going to jump out from my mouth already." The dragon Qin and Qi were completely oblivious and continued to drink. The dragon Qin just poured the wine straight into his mouth and finished a jar in seconds. Meanwhile, Qi plunged his head into the jar, and because the opening of the jar was slightly bigger, there was more than enough space to put his head in. The dragon Qin chuckled non-stop. "Third brother, stop drinking like this before you drown yourself. Third brother, third brother." His face changed slightly when he saw Qi stop moving after putting his head into the wine jar. The dragon Qin was about to rescue him when Qi pulled his head out from the jar and laughed. "Did I scare second brother? Your head is too big, so you can't put your head in. It's especially refreshing to put your head into drink. I can even put 9 heads in 9 jars, wait a moment." He opened a door shakily and took out 9 wine jars. Opening them up, his body shook, and he revealed 9 heads. With several plops, he stuck his 9 heads into 9 wine jars to drink. Qin Mu saw that and couldn't help shaking his head. Qi was an outstanding youth from the celestial heavens. His name was Jiui, which showed that he was an incomparably wise person. Yet after suffering such a huge setback, he had fallen to the level where he was brothers with Fatty Dragon. The sight would sooner or later become a huge stain in his life. Sakura Buddha's technique has a small flaw, so there's a spot that would be slightly thinner on the Imperial Gate divine knife that he forged. Over there, I will be able to open Gate of Heaven influence to link to Yudu. The crucial point is the location of that flaw. Qin Mu's gaze flickered, and he used his vital qi to construct the form of Sakura Buddha's corporeal body and primordial spirit. He transformed his Sakura scriptures into vital qi to circulate throughout the structure of his corporeal body and primordial spirit. He calculated in detail. The flaw is continuously moving. Qin Mu calculated for several months, and stared at a certain spot where the vital qi was circulating in Sakura Buddha's body. That spot was where the technique was weak. Qin Mu then used his vital qi to construct the 2-dimensional structure of Imperial Gate divine knife, and he imagined himself to be Sakura Buddha. When he was forging the divine knife and executing his technique, the flaw in his technique would subconsciously fuse into Imperial Gate divine knife along with his forging. Clank, clank, clank. He could imagine the beating sounds of a hammer beside his ears ringing out one after another. Qin Mu's brain was operating furiously as countless algebra symbols flashed through his mind. After a period of time, he suddenly opened his eyes and laughed loudly. "Got it." He looked around and saw that the dragon Qin had already fainted on the ground. Qi revealed his original form and transformed into a 9-headed phoenix to lie in the corridor. His legs were laid on by the dragon Qin, while his 9 heads stretched into 9 rooms. Qin Mu was still fine, as he sat on a wine jar while holding onto another wine jar to drink slowly. wake up all of you." Qin Mu kicked the dragon Qin and Qi. He said with a smile, "We can go out now." Qi sobered up and looked at his surroundings in a daze. The dragon Qin also yawned as he woke up. Qi instantly remembered how he had become sworn brothers with the dragon Qin and Qin Mu, and that made his face flushed. He felt uneasy. Qin Mu carried a wine jar to walk over. His hooves gave off clear tapping sounds as he walked over with a smile. "Third brother, you have sobered up. Don't worry, we have only become sworn brothers when we were drunk, we didn't do anything too ridiculous." The expression on Qi Jui's face froze, and he muttered, "I'm third brother." The dragon Qilin crawled up and shook his head. "You are 100 years younger than me, so of course you are third brother. We made an oath to Earth Count that we seek to die together. We swore to Earth Count." Qi Jui's eyes filled with fear and shock. He was at a loss. Getting drunk really made a botch of things. Qin Mu continued down on the long corridor and examined every room. It's not getting drunk that's making a botch of things. The wine isn't making anyone drunk. It's you that is making yourself drunk. The fine wine here is actually something that materialized from consciousness. That's why no matter how you drink, the wine can never be finished. Left Assistant Minister Yang Shaoqing of the Celestial Heavens must have been an existence that possessed abnormally strong consciousness divine art. He used his powerful consciousness to transform into these fine wines, and since you guys are in the form of the primordial spirit, drinking the wine means you are drinking his consciousness divine art. His divine art is the thing that caused you guys to feel drunk. The dragon Qilin, Tian Shu, and Qi Jui followed after him, and the dragon Qilin asked curiously, "There's such a divine art? In that case, we have always been drinking air." "Not entirely air, it's the apparition of Yang Shaoqing's consciousness." Qin Mu opened the door to a room and popped his head in to take a look. He took out a jar of fine wine and struck it with a strong wave of consciousness. His consciousness actually caused the jar of fine wine to fade until it completely vanished in front of them. This is me using my consciousness to erase Yang Shaoqing's consciousness. Of course, he is very strong and created numerous jars of fine wine. My consciousness isn't enough to completely erase the illusion that he had created. Every time you drink, it's equivalent to one attack on your consciousness, and thus, you will have the feeling of being drunk. Qin Mu calculated the rooms, and his eyes suddenly lit up. He said with a smile, "Right here and right at this moment." Everyone didn't understand what he meant, and Qin Mu just pushed open the door forcefully. Light burst forth from the back of the door, and it made everyone couldn't raise their hands to shield their eyes. Qin Mu walked into the room, and the dragon Qilin hurriedly walked in. Tian Shu and Qi Jui also hurriedly stepped into the room. When they got back their vision, they couldn't help clicking their tongues in wonder. It wasn't a room, and instead, it was a structure of strange and irregular space that was formed by all kinds of runes. Different kinds of runes constructed different fragments of space. The space fragments were like gears that interlocked with one another. Tian Shu muttered, "I've opened all of the rooms here before, so why have I never seen this room before?" Only then did he notice that Qin Mu, who was walking in front, had turned into a paper man. Qin Mu was like a paper man that had no thickness at all. He was just walking in front of them. Tian Shu shook his head and suddenly realized he could see his own buttocks. He had also become a paper man. The dragon Qilin and Qi Jui were no different. They were their respective primordial spirit, and the primordial spirit was also three-dimensional after all. Yet when they came to that room, they actually lost all thickness. This room always existed, but it was the floor of Sakura Buddha. Furthermore, this room is always moving and transforming. Even if you open all the doors at the same time, you still might not be able to find it. Qin Mu's mouth appeared behind his head, and that caused the hair of the dragon Qilin, Tian Shu, and Qi Jui to stand on end. The mouth on the back of Qin Mu's head opened and closed to speak. "You will need to calculate the correct time and correct room when you open the door. Only then will you be able to find this place." After entering Imperial Gate Divine Knife, the structure of the surroundings around the Divine Knife is a two-dimensional world. And this place is because Sakura Buddha realized he had a flaw when he was forging, and thus he constructed a room to store his miscellaneous items. This is a one-dimensional space, so anything that comes in will become very flat. Space fragments that were like gears floated past them silently, and it was truly a lustrous and dazzling sight. There were numerous strange and rare runes hidden in the space fragments, and they must have been the runes of Founding Emperor. Founding Emperor had designed the Imperial Gate divine knife to let Sakura Buddha forge. Founding Emperor should be the designer, and there shouldn't have been any mistake. However, Sakura Buddha's forging skill couldn't be perfect, and as a result, he forged such a storeroom. And it was also because of the storeroom that Qin Mu and the rest had the chance to escape. It wasn't that Founding Emperor couldn't forge Imperial Gate divine knife, but he wasn't specialized in that profession. His ability to create treasure would definitely be inferior to Sakura Buddha, so he could only let Sakura Buddha forge the knife. In Eternal Peace, numerous divine arts practitioners were specialized in heavenly works, and they forged spirit weapons for others to earn money. Qin Mu examined the runes in these space fragments, and his mind was stirring. The runes were the wisdom of Founding Emperor, and if he could comprehend the marvel in the runes, they would be a huge asset. "We can't waste too much time here, or our corporeal body will die," he muttered, but he couldn't shift his gaze from the runes. "Brother Qin, we really can't wait anymore." Qi Jiui hurried him. 3 days have already passed in the outside world. What if our corporeal bodies get ravaged by wild beasts? Tian Shu said with a sigh, "My corporeal body could already have been long dead." "Senior, I might have seen your corporeal body before." Qin Mu executed Overlord Body 3 elixir technique, and a gate of heaven influence, which was like paper when it appeared in the storeroom. The gate opened, and Yudu Devil Chi poured out piece by piece from the gate. "I've once seen a god that looked similar to an Overlord body in Ghost Valley. Behind the god were seals with the shape of honeycombs. He had a gate that was similar to the gate of heaven influence." Tian Shu was slightly stunned, and he shook his head. "What kind of place is Ghost Valley? When I chopped down the Horn of Earth Count chased after me and came grabbing at me. I escaped in a hurry, but he was truly powerful. Even when I escaped out of Yudu through God Execution Mysterious Gate, I still couldn't shake him off, so I turned into a stone statue." His gaze was filled with fear. Earth Count's hand stretched out from Yudu, and grabbed my corporeal body. I transformed into a stone statue, and my primordial spirit escaped. However, I still have a part of my primordial spirit trapped in the stone statue. I've escaped into Fengju, and only ran out after avoiding him. However, I can't return to my corporeal body. I would be captured if I return. There's still a small part of my primordial spirit in the stone statue, and I can still feel his grip on me. He shuddered and hurriedly changed the topic. "That's right, the gate of heaven influence that you had mentioned earlier is this gate. This gate is similar to my God Execution Mysterious Gate, but it isn't really the same. Strange. Also, what's an Overlord body?" Qin Mu said, "Overlord body is hard to explain with a few words. You are a pseudo-Overlord body. I will explain to you in detail later. Let us go in first, I'll stay behind." Qi Jiui walked one step into the gate first, and the dragon Chilean hesitated. However, he still jumped in. Tian Shu's mountain goat beard shivered, and he suddenly chickened out. "If I enter Yudu, Earth Count will definitely see me. I feel it's best if I stay here." Qin Mu consoled him, saying, "Senior, you can be at ease. I have a good relationship with Earth Count." Tian Shu walked into Gate of Heaven influence while shuddering. "Earth Count is emotionless, so how can he have a good relationship with you?" He walked in, and Qin Mu looked around before entering the gate with a sigh. The runes of Founding Emperor are exquisite, and shows that his path and skills are profound. How could such a talented and wise person be a ruined old man that doesn't dare to come out of Carefree Village? He put aside his doubts and passed through Gate of Heaven influence to proceed to Yudu. Just as he got hold of his footing, a lamp suddenly shone through the darkness, as a small boat, with an elder whose face couldn't be seen, came sailing over silently. Boundless darkness was around them, and only the lamp was shining on their face. The elder under the lamp got up and waved his hand. Benevolent saintly king, equal to heaven, pays my respects to Mingdu, heavenly king, and son of Yudu. Son of Yudu. Qin Shu took a glance at Qin Mu and was slightly stunned. He suddenly laughed out loud, and his worries before were all swept away. An unmatched aura burst forth, and he became more and more gigantic. His primordial spirit was so huge that Qin Mu and the rest seemed incomparably tiny when standing on his hooves. He greeted loudly, "Founding Emperor God Dynasty Left Assistant Minister, Qin Shu, pays my respect to official sovereign equal to heaven." Elder Messenger of Death said with a smile, "Heavenly King, Earth Count has been waiting for a long time. Please board the boat." Qin Shu's aura immediately collapsed, and his primordial spirit shrunk rapidly. Shaking his horns, he chuckled. "I have also been planning to find Earth Count to seek his forgiveness. Never did I expect to be trapped for so many years, so I couldn't have the chance to go forward." He poked Qin Mu secretly and whispered with a trembling voice, "You really have a good relationship with Earth Count. Don't worry." Qin Mu pat his chest heavily. "Earth Count and I are bosom buddies, he will more or less give me some face." The small boat floated over, an elder messenger of death stared at him. He sneered and said, "When I sensed someone opening the gate of heaven influence, I immediately knew it was you. You've come to create trouble again. If you create more trouble, Earth Count is going to swallow you up." Qin Shu's expression turned ashen, and he slumped down. He thought to himself, "This good relationship isn't like what I've imagined it to be. I'm dead meat." The three men and the dragon Qilin sat on the boat, which turned to sail into the endless darkness. "Big brother Qin even has the title of Heavenly King?" asked the dragon Qilin curiously. Qin Shu snorted and looked around without saying a word. Qi Jiui was completely sober, and sat between the dragon Qilin and Qin Shu uneasily. He was nervous like a small bride that had just entered the bridal room. There aren't many people who know the title Founding Emperor God Dynasty Left Assistant Minister, but there are many people that know the title of Mingdu Heavenly King. Qin Mu also became curious and asked, "What's the origin of Mingdu Heavenly King? Could it be related to Mingdu Black Deity?" Qi Jiui's expression flickered, and he took a glance at Qin Shu, who was shivering over in the corner. Qin Shu was even more nervous than him, allowing him to be at ease. "I've once heard Red Deity talk about the title of Mingdu Heavenly King, and back then, Red Deity made me go to Mingdu to learn spells. She told me numerous taboos of Mingdu, and that Mingdu Heavenly King was a name we shouldn't mention." Qin Mu took a glance at Qin Shu and was astonished. "Why is that?" "Black Deity has a grudge with Mingdu Heavenly King." Qi Jiui calmed down and said, "Earth Count actually confers the title of Mingdu Heavenly King. I've heard Red Deity mention before that Big Brother Qin has extremely high attainments in the art of the soul. He's able to enter and leave Yudu at will and had quite a reputation, thus, Earth Count viewed him highly and conferred him the title of Mingdu Heavenly King." Red Deity said Earth Count actually had ill intentions. His original intention was to sow discord between Mingdu Heavenly King and Black Deity to make them fight. Elder Messenger of Death said, "Don't think so lowly of Earth Count." Earth Count felt he epitomized the system of Yudu's divine art like Black Deity, and felt he wouldn't be any weaker than Black Deity in the future. Of course, there was also some intention of sowing discord. Qi Jiui said, afterwards, Black Deity's successors went to find Mingdu Heavenly King for trouble, and Big Brother Qin Shu killed many of his disciples. Qin Shu couldn't help revealing a pleased look and said with a smile, "I'm a Heavenly King that's on the same level as Black Deity. How could I be weaker than his disciple?" Qin Mu had a weird expression as he examined Qin Shu. He totally couldn't see the drunkard that viewed wine as his life being so famous as to have the same reputation as Son of Heaven Yin. He completely killed Black Deity's disciple, and even his big disciple died in the hands of Mingdu Heavenly King. Thus, Black Deity went to find him personally. Qi Jui hesitated and said, Red Deity said even though Big Brother Qian was defeated, Black Deity didn't manage to kill him and let him escape instead. Qian Shu was full of smiles and chuckled. Even though I'm not his match, I'm still a heavenly king. After all, it's not so easy if he wants to kill me. And then, Big Brother Qian fell out with Earth Count. Qin Mu continued. Qian Shu's expression turned ashen, and he collapsed on the small boat. He said with a weeping face, What can I do? Founding Emperor sent Imperial Gate Divine Knife to me and wanted me to chop Earth Count. How would I dare to? And so Founding Emperor gave me a lot of fine wine, and the wine was truly delicious. After drinking, I would even dare to chop Founding Emperor, much less Earth Count. Therefore, I took the knife and went into Yudu rashly. I was only sober when Earth Count caught me. Qin Mu looked at him with a weird expression. Qian Shu looked very timid and yet he loved to drink. He was usually timid, but once he drank, he was reckless. Before he drank, he was a field rat, and after drinking he was as fierce as a tiger. That was his true portrayal. Elder Messenger of Death didn't drive the small boat to his manor, and instead, went down to the body of Earth Count where the horn of the 9 bends was. Qian Shu's expression was pale, and he looked at Qin Mu in a fluster. Qin Mu muttered, We might be going to meet the true body of Earth Count. Don't be scared, don't be scared. Gradually, they could see the eyes of Earth Count flying closer and closer. The bigger the 3 eyes were, the harder it would be to see the full appearance of Earth Count. Qin Mu could still see countless ghosts resting on Earth Count's skin, and countless lands where countless ghosts were living. They built beautiful cities, and there were even some places that were at war. They fought until Earth Count's body cracked, but it couldn't hurt Earth Count at all. He even saw numerous monsters with huge body sizes carrying palaces, and those palaces were chained to their bodies. They walked forward on Earth Count's body, taking each step with difficulty. Living in those halls are the primordial spirits of strong sacred gods. Monsters are being subdued by them to be mounts. Qian Shu said, Those that have a little status in Yudu would rear a monster or 2 and treat them as mounts. When they visit their friends and families, they will let these monsters carry them and make them look imposing. Back then, when I was mingling in Yudu, I was also so impressive. Elder Messenger of Death said with a smile, After Heavenly King meets Earth Count, you can continue to be so impressive. Qian Shu had a look of despair, and didn't say another word. Qin Mu consoled him, saying, Don't worry, he's scaring you. Earth Count has a very high tolerance, he won't do anything to you. Elder Messenger of Death sneered and said, The same goes for you as well. Don't think Earth Count doesn't know. You are the one who had been stealing his power recently, am I right? The evil you have done, Earth Count will remember it. Qin Mu said with a smile, Official Sovereign, I was also doing it to save Goddess of Heavenly Yin. Goddess of Heavenly Yin manages the dead spirits when the soul shatters, and if the soul doesn't shatter, Earth Count manages them. I felt I couldn't let a beauty like Goddess of Heavenly Yin perish just like that, and thus I took without asking. I borrowed a little power from Earth Count and Heaven Duke. Heaven Duke even said what I did was good and right. Heaven Duke said that. Elder Messenger of Death asked curiously. Qin Mu said righteously, Of course. Heaven Duke is highly principled, and he supported my action very much. Heaven Duke even said Earth Count would understand and approve of my action. You must be wrong when you said Earth Count would remember my mistake. I guess we shouldn't disturb Earth Count even though we are back in Yudu. Why don't you send us back first? We have already arrived. Elder Messenger of Death was calm, and he disregarded his sincere and honest expression. The boat sailed leisurely towards Earth Count's third eye, and they couldn't see the eye any longer. They could only see boundless red light. The small boat sailed into the red light, and Qin Mu's body trembled when he turned back to take a look. He could actually see countless worlds through Earth Count's eye, and the souls of the countless life forms were all captured in his eyes. Truly remarkable abilities. In the depths of the red light was a circular platform that had a radius of 3,000 yards. On the circular platform was a palace, and the small boat sailed to the circular platform to stop by the side. Qin Mu and the rest got off the boat, and Qian Shu nearly slumped to the ground. At that moment, they heard a gentle voice speaking with a laugh. "Since Earth Count has visitors, I won't stay and disturb you anymore. I shall come to visit another day. No need to send me off." Qin Mu heard the voice, and he was slightly stunned. He felt that it sounded familiar. Elder Messenger of Death moored the boat and said, "When the guest is out, we can enter." After a moment, Qin Mu saw a slender man walking out of the palace, and that man looked very handsome. He had a bearing that couldn't be described, and people would find it refreshing to look at him. They couldn't help having a favorable impression of him. Qin Mu could imagine if Apothecary's face was still around, he must have been as handsome as well. Qian Shu's expression changed slightly, and he snorted. That handsome man walked over and greeted the Elder Messenger of Death. "Official Sovereign." Elder Messenger of Death returned his greeting. That handsome man saw Qian Shu and was slightly stunned. He said with a smile, "So it's Heavenly King, you are still alive." Qian Shu changed from his earlier helplessness and stood straight. His horns gave off a cold divine light, and he said, "Thanks to your blessing, I'm not dead yet." That handsome man looked around with a smile. "It's not bad that you can escape out after Yang Shaoqing trapped you in the Imperial Gate divine knife. However, you still chopped off Earth Count's horn, so it's hard to say if you can remain alive." "That's right. I knew you like wine, therefore, I've told Yang Shaoqing to bring some fine wine to you. How is the taste?" Qian Shu's mountain goat beard floated up, and he couldn't contain his anger. The handsome man gave a slight smile. "This is Yudu, don't be reckless." "That's right, you have already been reckless once." "Jiui, why are you here too?" Qi Jiui's expression changed slightly, and he walked out from the back of the dragon Qilin. He greeted, "Jiui pays my respect to master." The handsome man examined him and frowned. "You only have your corporeal body left, where is your corporeal body?" Qi Jiui revealed a look of shame and said, "I got sucked into Imperial Gate divine knife, so my corporeal body is still in the great ruins." Qin Mu's heart jumped, and he instantly knew who the handsome man was. Mingdu Black Deity, and also son of Heaven Yin. His aura wavered, but he suppressed it immediately and remained calm. He thought to himself, why has Son of Heaven Yin come to find Earth Count? Is it because of the incident with Goddess of Heavenly Yin? I stole Earth Count's power to revive Goddess of Heavenly Yin, and this fact definitely wouldn't escape his eyes. Son of Heaven Yin seemed to sense his aura wavering and looked at him before praising. A stable primordial spirit, truly a good youth. Heavenly King, is this your disciple? Qian Shu chuckled. None of your business. Son of Heaven Yin looked at Qin Mu and revealed a warm smile. There's no future in following this rebel. If there's a chance, you can find me in Mingdu. I admire young people like you. Qin Mu had fear and trepidation, as he looked at Qian Shu before looking at Son of Heaven Yin. He seemed to be helpless. Son of Heaven Yin took a step to leave. Jiui, since Earth Count wants to meet you guys, I shan't take you away by force. After you have settled the things here, go to the world of the living and find your corporeal body, then leave there immediately. Your senior brothers have started to descend the disaster. My visit this time is to discuss with Earth Count on how to deal with the billions of souls that will suddenly die in the lower bound. Understood. THG bowed and only raised his head after he disappeared. Qin Mu narrowed his eyes. Son of Heaven Yin's chi field was ample, and his imposing manner had always been pressing down on Tian Shu steadily. He was truly a powerful person. THG took a glance at him and said, "My master didn't recognize you." "Much thanks." Qin Mu bowed. THG opened his mouth and suddenly sighed. "We are originally enemies, yet I've become sworn brothers with the dragon Qilin when I was muddle-headed, so it wasn't good for me to betray you." "How did it become like this?" He had a blank look in his gaze. Tian Shu was curious. "Qin Mu, what had you done? Why can't your identity be revealed to Black Deity?" Qin Mu sighed and said, "It's hard to explain with a few words." Tian Shu's eyes became even bigger, and he was even more curious. Elder Messenger of Death came forward and said indifferently, "Go in, don't let Earth Count wait too long." Tian Shu immediately slumped down again, like he was a mountain goat monster that was about to die. He laid down on the floor and wasn't willing to move. Qin Mu grabbed onto his mountain goat horn and dragged him all the way into the main hall. Earth Count was right in front of them, though it was likely his clone. He was covered in flames and had a tiger's head, bull's horns, and a human's body, and he was flipping through a thick stack of books. "Official Sovereign, have you added the incident where he stole my powers?" Earth Count asked without even raising his head. Part 265. Elder Messenger of Death took a glance at Qin Mu and said, "Earth Count, I've already added, it's on the 1008th page of the 8th book. Every debt is recorded clearly and won't be left out." Earth Count put the book in his hands down and picked up the 8th book. He flipped through it and said, "Have you recorded down every time he opened Gate of Heaven influence?" "I have." Elder Messenger of Death said, "He keeps scaring me out of my wits, so I have to record them down. Also, every person that dies from his hands is also recorded down clearly without a mistake. We can only clear the list with him once he dies. However, all of these are small matters, and I've recorded them down in the miscellaneous books." Earth Count put down the 8th book and asked, "Where are the miscellaneous books?" Elder Messenger of Death replied, "There are too many miscellaneous books, so I've created another room to store them. It's almost full now. Should I bring the miscellaneous scrolls for Earth Count to take a look?" "There's no need." Earth Count also felt a slight headache and shook his head. "As long as it's recorded clearly, it's fine." Thump. Tian Shu just collapsed straight to the ground, and his goat head hit heavily on the ground, stopping only after bouncing twice. THG couldn't resist saying, "Big brother Tian, Earth Count shouldn't be saying you, he's talking about brother Qin Fengqing." Tian Shu said weakly, "I know he is talking about him, but I thought he had a good relationship with Earth Count, and now it looks like his has a good relationship with Earth Count based on the bad things he has done. I was still anticipating for Earth Count to give him face, and now I think the result of Earth Count giving him face would be an additional charge to my crime. Just let me lie here for a while, all of a sudden I feel so weak." Earth Count looked at Qin Mu, who was standing there uneasily with his head down. He would try to sneak a glance from time to time, and pulled back his gaze as though he was shocked. Earth Count said, "Shielding criminal Tian Shu and releasing him to cause misfortune on the world, this misdeed will be recorded on your head. Do you accept it?" Qin Mu hurriedly said, "I don't." "Put it on his head," Earth Count said to Elder Messenger of Death. Elder Messenger of Death said yes gladly, and recorded it down with his brush. He said to Qin Mu, "Earth Count is impartial and he's not asking for your opinion, he's just informing you so you would have no grievance after you die in the future." Qin Mu was instantly at ease. He said with a smile, "In the future?" In that case, Earth Count won't kill me this time. Earth Count shot a glance at him and said, your lifespan in the world of the living still hasn't ended, so we won't touch you for now. However, the longer you remain in Yudu, the weaker your corporeal body will get, you will still die. You aren't the main focus of the summon today, he is. He raised his hand to point at Qin Shu, and a whip lashed out and coiled Qin Shu. Qin Shu couldn't break free, and his face was ashen. Qin Mu took a step forward and stood between them. He asked loudly, may I ask Earth Count, what crime has Qin Shu committed? Severing my horn, stealing my Yudu, separating my territory to form Fengdu, this is a huge crime. Earth Count asked seriously, are you standing out for him? Are you going to take his punishment for him? Qin Mu said solemnly, Founding Emperor designed the Imperial Gate Divine Knife, and the order was given to him by Founding Emperor. Qin Shu is merely following orders. Is it wrong for a subject to follow the order of his ruler? Earth Count said, the person who bears the knife is already committing a mistake from the start. So Earth Count is bullying the weak and afraid of the strong. Qin Mu asked. Qin Shu's blood ran cold, and Qi Jui was also uneasy. Why does Brother Qin dares to say anything and everything? Even though he is the son of Yudu, even that identity can't protect him. Earth Count frowned slightly, and flames swirled between his horns. Qin Mu continued, saying, if Earth Count is impartial, you should hold Founding Emperor responsible and find him. Earth Count not going after the mastermind, and just taking in Qin Shu for punishment, makes me suspect you are only bullying the weak, and are afraid of the strong. I'm a junior, and junior also has a heart of righteousness. If Earth Count is impartial, junior cannot accept your decision, and has to step out to express my opinion. If Earth Count isn't afraid of the strong, in that case, the deaths of countless life forms in Supreme Emperor Heaven and Luofu Heaven, why didn't Earth Count seek out the originator? Elder Messenger of Death frowned and said, son of Yudu, you don't know the reason behind, let's not talk about this. Let him speak. Earth Count raised his hand. Elder Messenger of Death could only hold himself back, and be secretly anxious for Qin Mu. Qin Mu continued to speak, and said, and who is the originator? That esteemed guest that just walked out from Earth Count's palace. Son of Heaven Yin let his disciples do as they pleased and forced the remaining survivors of Crimson Light into Luofu Heaven, the territory of the devil, to invoke a bloodbath. Luofu Heaven was destroyed, and only Kai Shi was left from the remaining survivors of Crimson Light. To survive, the devils had no choice but to invade Supreme Emperor Heaven. The disciples of Son of Heaven Yin then used the Life and Death Book to sacrifice Luofu Heaven, crashing it into Supreme Emperor Heaven, which in turn caused Supreme Emperor Heaven to crash into the Great Ruins. This resulted in countless deaths. The originator of the true evil was right here, so why didn't Earth Count kill him? My brother created havoc in Yudu, and Earth Count put it on my head, wanting to beat and kill me. I summoned the soul of 7 kills Star Sovereign Wei Liao, and Earth Count put it on my head, wanting to beat and kill me. When I fought in the battlefield and killed enemies, Earth Count put it on my head, wanting to beat and kill me. And now, when the disciples of Son of Heaven Yin wants to bathe the entire eternal peace in blood and revive the stone statues by dropping calamities on eternal peace, countless lives would be lost again. Earth Count, how are you impartial? Have you wanted to beat and kill them? You are clearly bullying the weak and afraid of the strong, you are bullying the kind and scared of the evil. So what is the crime of Qin Shu severing your horn? If it was Founding Emperor sitting at the top of the celestial heavens now, would you even dare to let out a fart? You say I'm full of evil and put all of the troubles my brother has done on my head. It's true that my brother commits all kinds of imaginable misdeeds, but he acts on his knowledge, yet you as the ruler of Yudu don't act on what you preach. You are truly a disgrace to the reputation of a natural-born sacred god. You might as well let out your position and let my brother be the ruler of Yudu. At least he treats everyone equally at the minimum, unlike you who doesn't. Tianshu, the dragon Qilin, and Qi Jui almost shat in their pants from hearing what Qin Mu said. Even Elder Messenger of Death took a few gulps and thought to himself, it's over, it's over. Earth Count's three eyes stared at Qin Mu, and Qin Mu stared back without relenting. You are originally very smart, and know how to guide the situation to your advantage. You know how to conform to the situation, and yet why are you not backing down today? Why must you argue strongly for what's right? Earth Count finally spoke, and he asked. Qin Mu bowed and said, everyone has accumulated ransa, and once the ransa goes on for a long period, one would still burst apart. I'm also a part of everyone. I seek your forgiveness if I have offended you in any way. Earth Count nodded slowly and said, how do you know I don't have a small booklet to record Son of Heaven Yin's sins? Qin Mu said, if you have it, but don't carry out the punishment, what's the difference with not having it in the first place? I know Earth Count is in a troubled position, and it's none other than the power of the celestial heavens being too strong, so you can't act as you wish. Since Earth Count isn't willing to make a move yourself, why stop other people? Earth Count's expression was incomparably calm, and no change in expression could be seen at all. What you mean is, evil must be fought with evil. I'm this evil, and Tianshu is also this evil. In the current world, there aren't many people that dare to fight Son of Heaven Yin to the death, but Tianshu is one of them. Qin Mu said, wouldn't it be better if Earth Count let Tianshu go and let him fight to the death with Son of Heaven Yin? Tianshu indeed severed your horn, but there was also a reason for it. He was under Founding Emperor's order, and since Founding Emperor isn't here, I'll bear his crime. Earth Count can just put this crime on my head. I only wish for Earth Count to let him off, and let him fight with Son of Heaven Yin. Earth Count can just wait and reap the benefits. Earth Count's three eyes kept staring at him, and he never shifted his gaze. Tianshu and the rest were uneasy. Qin Mu didn't know how powerful Earth Count was, but Tianshu knew it very well. During Founding Emperor period, he had been conferred the title of Mingdu Heavenly King, because of his remarkable abilities that were honed to perfection. But comparing him to Earth Count, it was like comparing a grain of rice to a blazing sun. He had a natural fear of Earth Count. Yet Qin Mu could be so at ease in front of Earth Count, and even have a heated discussion. He could even scold Earth Count and discuss the terms with Earth Count after scolding him. In his eyes, that was the path leading to death. Right at that moment, Earth Count's voice rang out. Fine, I'll give you this face and let him go. The whip around Tianshu's body loosened up, and he crashed onto the ground. Tianshu's mind was blank, and he shook his head as though he hadn't heard Earth Count clearly. Earth Count actually agreed to Qin Mu's terms and even said he would give him face. That was something that could never have happened. Qin Mu bowed and expressed his gratitude. Many thanks, Earth Count, for granting my request. No matter if they are a commoner or the Celestial Emperor, as long as evil is committed, I will be impartial and will record them down. Earth Count said calmly, everyone has their respective booklet, and the only difference is the thickness. I don't blame you for stealing my power to revive the goddess of Heavenly Yin. Instead, I admire you very much. All beings grieve for their fellow beings. I also couldn't accept goddess of Heavenly Yin's death, but I'm still the ruler of Yudu after all. There are some things that I can't do, and I can only let others do it. There are some things that I can't say, and I can only let others say. You have done it, and you have said it. However, to be fair, no matter how much I admire you, I will still need to record down and handle the problems according to the rules of Yudu. Do you understand? Qin Mu bowed. I understand. Earth Count nodded his head and said, you guys can leave now. Qin Mu hesitated for a moment. Earth Count, Can I meet my mother? I've never met her before. She's being punished for you. Earth Count's face was expressionless as he said, a few months after you were born, you committed a huge misdeed in Yudu, and to protect your life, she sent you away. But to protect you and not let the big shots of Yudu chase after you, she took on all of your mistakes. If you want to meet her, I can arrange for it, but the disciples of Mingdu have already made their moves. The souls of the lives in eternal peace are currently being guided into Yudu. Are you sure you want to meet her? Qin Mu stood there blankly, as though he was struck by lightning. He suddenly turned and said, Tian Shu, Brother Qi, let us return to eternal peace now. Earth Count saw him off, and saw that youth secretly wiping his tears away. He will be a good child, Earth Count said softly. Elder Messenger of Death bowed and said, of course he will be a good child. Let me send them away. On the paper boat, Qin Mu turned back and looked at Earth Count, who looked cold and dark. There were countless dead people living there, and it was incomparably lively. His kin was also over there, and maybe there was even his father, who was still driving the ship to find the traces of his mother in the darkness. Yet he had the chance to meet them but couldn't. I will come back when the chaos in eternal peace is quelled. I will come back to meet both of you. Qin Mu revealed a warm smile and thought to himself, I don't remember what I did after I was born. It must have been older brother who did it, but what he has done is what I have done. However, I can't bear to let mother suffer because of me. Mother, I will be back to fetch both of you. I won't let you suffer in Yudu on my behalf. On the paper boat, Tian Shu kept examining Qin Mu. He noticed the youth looked cheerful, but his worries and longing for his kin were hidden in his brows. He really has a good relationship with Earth Count. Tian Shu secretly asked Elder Messenger of Death, whispering, Official Sovereign, we are also old friends. Why would Earth Count give him face and let me out? I don't believe Earth Count would let me off just because of his words. Elder Messenger of Death took a glance at Qin Mu and whispered, of course Earth Count won't let you off just because of his words. If that were the case, everyone would be coming to chop Earth Count's horns. Even the horns of 9 bens would be shaved to nothing. After you chopped a chunk to make Mingdu, another few worlds were destroyed and only then did Earth Count finally manage to mend his horns. The price he paid wasn't small. The reason why Earth Count gave him face was because he didn't want him to return to Yudu. Tian Shu stared with his eyes wide open. He doesn't want him to return to Yudu. What's the reason? He was born in Yudu, and was the first being born in Yudu after the creation of Yudu, thus, he is referred to as son of Yudu. Elder Messenger of Death sighed and said, you didn't see the apparition that appeared when he was born. The entire Yudu was shaken, and countless big shots infiltrated into Yudu to look at the glorious occasion. 3 to 4 months later, he pierced his way through the horns of 9 bens. Tian Shu had a weird expression and stuttered, he pierced his way through. Elder Messenger of Death nodded his head, and recalled the sight that had happened over 20 years ago. He couldn't help shivering. The horns of Earth Count were pierced through, and it affected the benefits of numerous big shots in Yudu. Therefore everyone came together to take him down, and a huge bunch of big shots got eaten up. Look, there are still many places on Earth Count that are in chaos, and the ghosts are still at war with one another. Just by that, you know how powerful the wake of his destruction was. Tian Shu was also one of Yudu's big shots once, and he had very great power, so he understood what he meant. The big shots of Yudu possessed great power in Yudu, and they could all have a piece of territory on Earth Count's body. The territory they were in charge of was very vast, and they ruled over billions of ghosts. Once Qin Mu ate the big shots, there would be no one left to rule over the ghosts. In that way, other big shots would take the chance to enter and fight over the territory. It could be seen that Qin Mu had eaten too many big shots of Yudu, which was why the war had lasted until then and not stop. Qin Mu was silent for a moment and said, "In the depths of Yudu, some existences were strong practitioners of Emperor's throne before they died. Didn't they make a move?" "They did." Elder Messenger of Death said, "First they fought one-on-one, but how could they help when their abilities were inferior to when they were alive? Without their corporeal bodies, they were no match for him. After that, they took him on together, but they couldn't do anything. They could only call Earth Count for help, and only then was he sealed and exiled." Qin Mu shivered a few times and said with a sigh, "Being trapped inside the Imperial Gate Divine Knife made me miss out so many interesting things." Elder Messenger of Death sneered. "Even if you were there, you would be helpless. Without sealing him, he's just a pure devil king. He will eat anything he gets his hands on, and even you would be eaten up. After you go back, never try to touch the seal in the heart of his brows. You will die miserably if you do. It hasn't been just once that he broke through the seal in recent years, and Earth Count is plagued with headaches." Qin Mu laughed dryly. "I'm not a curious person, you know me, I'm very timid." After he said that, he took a glance at Qin Mu, who was spacing out. His gaze fell on the heart of his brows. Elder Messenger of Death said, "When you don't drink, you are timid, but after you drink, you dare to chop Earth Count. What else do you not dare to do? You and I are old friends, so I'm warning you now. Otherwise, if you release him out, it would be an even greater disaster than chopping off Earth Count's horn. We are here in the world of the living." Everyone on the ship stood up and looked ahead. It was completely black. Suddenly, Elder Messenger of Death pushed Qin Mu off the boat. Elder Messenger of Death also pushed Qin Mu and Qi Jui off the boat before looking at the Dragon Qilin. The Dragon Qilin immediately took the initiative to jump off by himself. "This big chunk of meat sure has a good eye." Elder Messenger of Death chuckled and turned his boat around to return. On the return journey, paper boats were bustling with activity as they sailed out of eternal peace and towards Earth Count's corporeal body. Souls of the people of eternal peace filled every boat. With so many ships, it meant several million people suddenly died in a short time. Elder Messenger of Death was astonished. The disciples of Mingdu have made their move. The small boats stopped, and on the bow were elders that looked exactly the same. The elders looked one another in the eye and said in unison, "Son of Yudu has now returned to the world of the living, and he will definitely make a move. If we send these souls over to Earth Count, he will seize them back by force again. Why don't we wait a few days and see how the situation goes? In that case, how many days should we wait? Give him 7 days. If he can tide through this disaster and execute soul guide to guide these souls back to the world of the living, let him be. If he can't, the bodies of these souls would also have decomposed, and there's no use even if he seized them back. If we give him 7 days, would we be denounced by others for being scared of Son of Yudu? We need to think of a cover. In that case, let us call it return to the life in the first 7 days. Souls can return to the world of the living in the first 7 days. In that way, tongues wouldn't waggle." "Excellent." Below God-broken mountain range, Qin Mu suddenly opened his eyes and looked around. He saw the Dragon Qilin and Qi Jui waking up after him, and everyone quickly moved far away from the Imperial Gate Divine Knife, so that their primordial spirits didn't get sucked in again. "Boss Tian isn't here." The Dragon Qilin looked around and didn't see Qin Mu. He should be in Ghost Valley. Qin Mu flew down and came to the palace below the knife. His corporeal body should be in the underground of Ghost Valley, since it seems like half of his body is buried as he got grabbed by Earth Count's hand. This should likely be the palace that founding emperor built for him, and he will come to find us. Let us wait here for a moment. Qi Jui hesitated for a moment and also landed outside the palace. "Brother Qin, It's hard for me to choose a side when both you and the disciples of Mingdu are at war. I'm afraid I can't remain here anymore. I want to return to Southern Heaven now and not participate in the fights between both sides. The dragon Qin hurriedly said, "We have made an oath to Earth Count to seek to die together, so how could third brother leave? If I die, Earth Count will be coming to take brother Tian's life and your life." Cold sweat covered Qi Jiu's head. He regretted drinking so much wine. He couldn't even leave when he wanted to. "Brother Qi can leave," Qin Mu said. "Other than festive occasions, which would be slightly more dangerous for Fatty Dragon, he's usually out of danger." Festive occasions. The faces of the dragon Qin and Qi Jiu turned white. Qi Jiu hesitated for a moment and decided not to leave. What if the dragon Qin ate and became a fatty once again? Wouldn't he have to give up his life too? Qin Mu entered the palace and examined his surroundings. He only saw a bunch of wine jars accumulated in the hall, and there was also some murals on the wall. What he drew was the sight of Tian Shu raising his knife to sever Earth Count's horns. Tian Shu in the painting was heroic. He carried a wine jar in one hand and his sword in another. It was truly heroic. On the other hand, Earth Count was drawn to look very wretched, and the Earth Count in the painting had a look of anger which was remarkably true to life. He didn't know whose work it was. "Cult Master, that stone statue seems to be reviving." The dragon Qilin's voice came from outside, and Qin Mu hurriedly went out from the palace, and saw the stone statue, whose head was stuck on the Imperial Gate divine knife slowly shedding away his stone characteristics. It was gradually revealing the color of flesh. Lu Yinxiu, Kuei Qingpei, and Fu Yanqi of Mingdu are massacring the life forms of eternal peace, and trying to revive the stone statue. Qin Mu was astonished. He saw the stone statue looked more fleshy, and its aura was gradually becoming more powerful. In the past, Qin Mu guessed the other stone statues that descended from the other worlds were only on the level of true God and true devil. Even though the stone statue had yet to recover completely, its aura and imposing manner had already surpassed true God and true devil. He had underestimated the stone statues. He didn't know what realm the stone statues were, but if they revived, they were enough to destroy eternal peace. Qin Mu took out God Execution mysterious knife and opened up the case. 2 trails of blood light flew out to circle the neck of the devil god stone statue. Sparks flew in all directions, yet there was only a white trace on the stone statue's neck. The knife didn't manage to sever the head. When God Execution mysterious knife missed, the 2 trials of blood light returned to slash at Qin Mu. Qin Mu was alarmed. This evil knife wants to eat me in return. The 2 trails of blood light were incomparably sharp, and because it couldn't drink any blood several times, its fierce nature was invoked. It wanted to slay Qin Mu to drink his blood. Right at that moment, the stone statue suddenly trembled and devil blood came pouring out from the forehead. That was the revival of the stone statue, but because the head was stuck in the Imperial Gate divine knife, part of its revived flesh and blood turned back from stone. That caused it to be injured by the Imperial Gate divine knife. 2 trails of blood light seemed to be able to sniff the blood scent in the air, and one of them immediately turned to slash the neck of that stone statue. The other trail just kept slashing towards Qin Mu's neck. Before the blood light could reach Qin Mu, a sea of blood red color was already in front of his eyes. His vision was blocked entirely, and everything turned blood red. Qin Mu immediately made a decision, and took down the willow leaf on the heart of his brows. The sea of red was instantly sucked into the heart of its brows like a whale swallowing a rainbow. At that moment, another trail of sword light surrounded the neck of the devil god stone statue to spew out blood. In that small case in Qin Mu's hand, the head that was like jade flapped the membranes behind its head excitedly. Next, the Imperial Gate divine knife's expression froze. because he realized he couldn't take back the bloodlight he had slashed at Qin Mu. That was something that had never happened. He was a strange treasure forged in the Crimson Light era, and made with the head and primordial spirit of an emperor's throne. He only knew how to kill, but as long as they were living, it was hard for them to escape his slaughter. If he couldn't slash through, he would slash the owner. It was equally delicious. His knife had always slashed through all obstruction, but not only did he not eat Qin Mu's qi and blood, but he also seemed to be eaten by Qin Mu instead. Qin Mu's third eye swept everything in front of him and swallowed the bloodlight in one gulp. A burp came from the inside of his third eye, and there was the cheerful cry of a toddler. Boom! A loud explosion rang out from the devil god stone statue. Next, a massive head fell off its neck, and that head was like a mountain that fell into the depths of the underground. A dull boom rang out and lingered for a long time. The bloodlight absorbed all of the qi and blood of the devil god, and flew back rapidly into the small case. Qin Mu was about to close the small case, when the small case closed itself with a clack. What's wrong with the god execution divine knife? Qin Mu was bewildered and pasted his willow leaf back to block out his brother's excited cries. The small case gave off slight tremors, and it was like that head of an emperor's throne shivering. Qin Mu didn't understand why the little case would tremble and shook his head. He stuffed the case back into his Daotai sack and thought to himself, maybe I could use the god execution mysterious knife to deal with the devil stone statue. However, if I don't hit it on the first hit, it would come and attack me. That is troublesome. To even eat me as well. In the small case, the head of Emperor's throne was completely frightened to meet a natural predator for the first time. He's even fiercer than me. I can't provoke him. Part 266. If this devil god stone statue revives, the other stone statues will also revive. This stone statue is unlucky to have transported his corporeal body here. However, the other stone statues in eternal peace are all perfectly fine. Qin Mu was astonished. Aside from that unlucky stone statue, there was another unlucky one, the one under Mount Meru. That stone statue rose from the ground and ended up hitting Mount Meru. Mount Meru of Great Thunderclap Monastery and the Mount Meru of Buddha Realm were basically the same nature. Knocking into Mount Meru of Great Thunderclap Monastery was equivalent to hitting a Buddha Realm. However, the other stone statues didn't encounter situations like those. Instead, they popped out from all corners of the world without incident. Those stone statues were incomparably heavy and couldn't be moved at all, thus, Emperor Yangfeng ordered all of them to be guarded heavily. After Qin Mu had experienced a stone statue reviving for himself, he clearly understood how terrifying the stone statues were. If they were to revive, it would be a catastrophe to eternal peace even without the divine weapons that could descend calamity. If Qian Shu still doesn't come, I can only go ahead by myself. Just as he thought until there, a divine light shone down from the sky, and from the light, a majestic god stretched his hand out to grab the Imperial Gate divine knife that was underground. Mingdu Heavenly King is here. Qin Mu was delighted and raised his head to take a look. He saw Qian Shu holding the Imperial Gate divine knife, and chanting phrases to turn it smaller and smaller. Not long later, it transformed into a huge knife that was over 100 yards long. Qian Shu kept the divine knife and tried his best not to touch the blade. Stay here, let me go and meet the disciples of Mingdu. After saying that, he rose into the air, and light filled the sky. Both he and the knife vanished. Qin Mu was about to stop him, but he had already gone far away. Qin Mu frowned slightly and rose into the air to get out of the underground space. Looking into the distance, he could only see a beam of sunlight flying towards the east. Suddenly, his Daotai sack vibrated, and peals of thunder came out. Qin Mu was astonished and quickly poured the things in his Daotai sack out to see the surroundings of 5 thunder pot crackling with electricity. The meteorological weapon looked to be on the verge of losing control. The 5 great thunderclouds are about to be activated. Qi Jui sighed and said with a solemn face, "Brother Qin, eternal peace is no longer a place we can have a footing in. Once the 5 thunderclouds rise into the air, eternal peace will transform into a sea of lightning and the fire bell divine weapons will scuttle around in the sea of lightning. Furthermore, other than 5 thunder pot, there are also meteorological divine weapons like earthquake cauldron and hurricane bottle gourd. If all of their power burst forth together, eternal peace would be even more terrifying than hell. I'm ready to hide in high heavens, second brother, are you following me? I can bring you to leave this world and enter the high heavens. The calamities won't reach there." The dragon Qilin hesitated for a moment and looked at Qin Mu. He shook his head and said, "Wherever Cult Master goes, I go. I've followed Cult Master for so many years and ate a lot. I can't just leave when I'm needed." Qi Jui had a complicated expression and sighed. Flames surrounded him as he transformed into a 9-headed phoenix to soar towards the west. His voice rang out, "In that case, you're on your own. Second brother, don't die, no matter what. This is the token that represents the bloodline of Southern Heaven Red Deity. It might just be able to save your life." A token flew into Qin Mu's hand. Qin Mu was slightly stunned and handed over the jade token carved with a 9-headed phoenix to the dragon Qilin. Special episode Qi
Part
Jui's token wasn't for
257.
him. It was for the dragon
8,000
Qilin.
swords
Came flying
Fatty
over
dragon
and formed a
Qi
huge
Jui
shield in
is still
front of
pretty
Qin
nice
Mu.
to you.
The shield
Qin
had
Mu
a
said with a
perfect
smile,
arc, which
"Let's
could block
start
the
on
most
our
powerful
journey
impact
back to
with the
eternal
least amount
peace."
of pressure. The dragon
Qin Mu
Qilin
turned
stepped
to
on
the
side
fire
and knelt
clouds
on one
and
knee with
brought
one
Qin
arm
Mu to
blocking the
rise
back
into
of the
the
shield.
air.
It was the
Qin
best
Mu saw
pose
the
to
sword
welcome the
pellet
impact
on his
body and hesitated
Behind
for a
him,
moment. Countless threads of
However,
vital chi came
he
out
still
from
didn't
his
let the
primordial
dragon
spirit
Qilin throw
and
the
poured
sword
into the
pellet off.
shield, strengthening
He
the
didn't know the
structure of the
situation
shield in eternal peace.
The flying
and he
swords
didn't
on
have
the
any
surface
weapon
of the
that was
shield
suitable
were
for
locked
him.
together with the structure
Besides,
of a chain
if he
mail.
threw away the unfinished
He
sword
could use
pellet,
that kind of
it wouldn't
structure
increase
to
his
endure
speed
the
much.
strongest impact.
What can really
Other
increase
than
my
that,
speed
all
is my
kinds of
primordial
defensive
spirit.
runes also appeared
On
the
the back
shield,
of the dragon
and those
Qilin,
were the runes of the
Qin
black
Mu
tortoise.
projected his primordial spirit.
The surface of
and
the shield
executed
had
the
the vein
secrets
lines
of
of 3
tortoise
primordial
shell,
spirit
and on the
assembly.
borders of the shields were the
Soon,
markings
he
of the
had
flying
gathered all of the
serpent.
talents in eternal
Twang.
peace for a meeting.
The impact
The primordial
from heavenly
spirits
funeral
of
bell
Dao
came
Master
blasting
Lin Xian,
over,
Wang
and there was
Muren,
no loud
Xu
ringing.
Xinghua,
There was
Ling
only
Yuxiu,
violent
and the rest
tremors
were
in
all
space,
gathered in Hall of
and
Supreme
Qin Mu
Learning.
couldn't feel any terrifying
Has there been a
impact.
large-scale incident
On
of
the
death
other hand,
in eternal peace
the primordial
recently?
spirit behind him seemed
Qin
to
Mu
have
asked.
suffered a huge blow as it
Yuji
was blown out
County
of
in the
sight.
southeast.
In one
This
night,
heavenly funeral
all
bell
of the people
is a
died.
divine art that's
Ling
aimed at the
Yuxiu
primordial
said,
spirit
from the
or
cities to
soul.
the countrysides,
Qin Mu's
everyone
heart
died
was
at the same
astonished,
time,
and his
and that
primordial
included the
spirit
young
returned
magistrate of
quickly.
Yuji County.
The
Who
speed
was
of
a
a strong
primordial
practitioner
spirit
on
flying
divine
was the
bridge realm
fastest
that
speed
was
in the
far
world,
from being a god.
and even if blown over
My
10,000
father has
miles
already
away,
dispatched
he
men to
just
scout
needed
that
an
place,
instant to return.
and from the reports,
The only
all
problem
of the people
was
in
that
Yuji
Qin Mu
County
didn't
still
know
look alive.
if his primordial spirit
Many
could
people
handle
are
the
on the
attacks
streets
from
with
heavenly
walking
funeral
poses,
bell. And there were also
He didn't
old
know
farmers
much
farming
about
in
the
the
divine
fields.
arts of Mingdu.
However,
and had only
they have
seen
all
them on Lu
died, and there were
Qianzhong
no
before.
breaths at all.
Lu Qianzhong
Father
only
has
had
already
time
to
to execute
execute
one
from
move
spreading to
before
prevent
he
panic
died,
in the hearts of the
so
people.
he didn't get the chance to
Qin
see
Mu
more
frowned
of
and
Mingdu's
asked,
techniques and
"What about
divine
the
art."
livestock?" Just as his
Livestock,
primordial
pets,
spirit flew
and
back,
beasts,
none
the
was
second
spared.
wave of
Ling
impact
Yuxiu
from the
replied.
heavenly funeral bell followed
Dao Master
closely,
Lin Xian
and blew his
Wang
primordial
Muren
spirit
and the rest
even
still
further
didn't know
away.
such a huge incident
Yet
had occurred,
Qin Mu's
and in an
corporeal
instant
body
still feel
the Hall
much
of Supreme
impact.
Learning was in an uproar.
This heavenly funeral bell
Ling
has
Yuxiu
strong
continued,
power,
but it's
imperial
only
preceptor,
effective
against the
first
primordial
ancestor,
spirit or
sacred
soul.
teacher, and the
In
rest
that
assembled
case,
the experts of
Qin
Crimson
Mu's
Light,
consciousness
and the devil
controlled
raced
his body,
to find the
and the
location
shield
of the
suddenly
enemy.
disassembled.
These
The moment
enemies
the
must
shield broke
definitely
apart,
be Lu Yunxiu
Qin Mu
and the
had
rest.
already transformed into
Qin
a
Mu
three-headed
looked at
and
Cai
six-armed
Yinxiang and
form.
said solemnly,
His
Saint
6 arms
Xiong
grabbed towards
immediately
the 8,000
passed down the
swords
order to
that had
contact all
transformed
disciples
into
of the
6
sacred
divine
cult.
knives. Make all of the
He leaped and
disciples
attacked
supervise the
towards the
activities
front of the
every
heavenly
single
funeral
stone
bell.
statue.
He was like
Report
a fierce
any
tiger that
abnormalities
had entered
to
a
me
flock
immediately.
of lambs.
His sixth divine nodded her head and said,
down.
"There are
Severing
tip-offs
the
from
heads of
various
the people
regions
from their
that those
bodies.
stone statues are
He
starting
killed them
to
like
revive.
he was cutting grass.
Some stone statues
and he
are
executed
revealing the
butchers'
color of
9
flesh.
skills of heaven knife to his
I
heart's
even
content.
heard the news that eternal
The
peace
9
imperial
skills of heaven
preceptor
knife
suppressed the
from midnight
meteorological
battle
across
divine
stormy
weapons
cities
in the treasury.
Sun on east
Not long
1,000
ago,
layers
the
waved to
weapons
long night
started to
hangs
give off
below the
power
moonlight
and crumbled the treasury.
Among the stars the heavenly
Just today,
horses.
the
Every
capital
knife
city
skill
quaked
was
15
intricate and
times,
impressive.
and the dragon veins are
The knife
splitting
light
apart.
was like wind and rain.
Everyone's
Sea
hearts
and
heaved,
waves, and they instantly
It
became
was hanging
silent
below the moonlight.
The
and
other
was
thing
like
you
the
have to
heavenly
take note
horses
is for
among the
any
stars.
large-scale incidents of death.
In addition to
if there
Crimson
is,
Light
inform
Era's
me at
strongest
once.
creation divine art.
Qin Mu quickly
Having
said,
3 heads,
Sister
and
Xiao,
3 arms
inform
allowed
the
him
emperor
to look around
and get him
for
to
his
give the
attacks
order
have
to
no
summon
blind
all
spots
scholars
at all.
that are skilled in soul
It was
guide
like
to
3
take fast
Qin Mu
ships
killing
to
their
Yuji
way
County.
into the flock of lambs.
Dowmaster,
Brother
suddenly,
Wang,
the knife
if there are
lights
people
pulled
who are
back,
skilled in
and
soul
his 6
guide in
arms
Dao
raised
sect
high
or
up.
Little Jade Capital,
The 6
get them
knives
to
collided
hurry there as
together
well.
to transform
We
into a
might
single
still
long
be able
knife,
to save them,
which slashed down.
Everyone
with his 6
nodded in
arms.
acknowledgement.
Kai.
The primordial
The knife
spirit
light
assembly
was
was
breathtaking,
dismissed,
and split
Qin
apart
Mu's
the door of the
primordial
palace
spirit
hall.
returned into his
The
body.
door split and flew towards
He immediately
both sides,
ordered the dragon
opening
Qilin
up
to
the
head
hall.
towards Yuji County.
Meanwhile,
but after
corpses
some
fell
time,
from his front,
he stopped him.
back, left,
The
and
dragon
right.
Qilin didn't
All
understand,
of them collapsed
but
one
still
after
slowed
another,
down to
and
run
no
forward
one
at a
could
steady
stand up
pace
anymore.
Qin
His
Mu's
primordial
expression
spirit
flickered
flew
with
back,
uncertainty,
and it landed behind his
Yuji
back.
County was close
Qin
to the
Mu
coastal
rubbed his
area
6 arms
in the
gently,
southeast of
and the
Eternal
long
Peace
knife
Empire.
transformed into a sword
The journey
pellet
was
to
long,
float in front
and
of
it
the
would
heart
take a
of his
day to
brows.
reach there.
He paused in his
coastal area
footsteps,
was secluded,
and his vital
and if he
chi
had just
swept up
rushed
the
the
stair
small
without
case
thinking
into
it
his
through,
hands,
he might fall into the
Only
trap
then
of
did
luring
he
the
walk
tiger
into
away
the
from its
hall.
domain in the mountains.
Clang.
The
If
heavenly
all of the divine
funeral
arts
bells behind him
practitioners
fell to the
that were
ground
skilled
and
in
rolled
soul
down the
guide
steps,
were gathering
giving
Yuji
off more
County,
loud ringing.
no one would be
In
able
the
to
hall,
react if
a
another
devil god
large-scale
cloaked in a
incident
black
of death
cape
suddenly
sat straight
erupted
on
in
his
other
throne.
prefectures and counties.
He had 2 curved and long
Just the
scarlet
people of a
horns on his
county
head,
are probably not
and his
enough
eyes were
for the
like the
stone
eyes of a
statues
human.
to revive.
More
The devil
people
god
have
held
to die
onto
to
a
wake
book
the stone
and was
statues
studying.
up.
Qin Mu
carried
carried
his
a small
case
and he took out
walked
a map
over.
of eternal peace from
The
Dao
small
Tai
case
Sac.
clacked, and a small slit
Eternal
opened
peace
up.
was no longer what
The
it was
devil
before,
god placed
and
down
their
the
territories
book,
had
had
increased
and looked at
drastically.
him.
The
He chuckled
population
and said,
was also several
"It's been a
times
long
what
time
it was
since
before,
anyone has
but the
come
human
into
traffic
heavenly yin
was still
world.
mainly concentrated
The
at
last
places
time
where trade
anyone
was
came
flourishing
in was 20,000
the
years
water
ago.
transportation of the surging
Founding
river
emperor
is the
didn't
most
know
developed,
the immensity
and
of
along
heaven
the
and
river
earth.
there are
So
many
he ordered
cities
gods
with
to
populations
investigate
of
this
a million,
place.
especially in this
Now
stretch
you
of
are
River
here.
Tomb. Could
However,
some impudent fool
River
in
Tomb
the
is
outside
close to the
world
capital
wish
city,
to overturn
so
the
imperial
heaven?
preceptor,
First
Qin Mu
ancestor,
carried the
and the
case
rest
and
would
bowed.
respond quickly.
Qin
107th
Mu checked the
descendant
map,
of founding
and the
emperor,
most suitable
Qin
location
Mu
was still
pays
none
my
other
respect
than
to
Yu
senior
of
of
Mingdu.
Lizhu Prefecture.
So you are a descendant
It was
of
far
founding
enough
emperor.
from the capital
You are
city,
still young,
and far enough
the
from
devil
Yuji
god
County.
said with a smile. Is
It was
founding
also
emperor
in the
dead?
center of eternal peace.
If he isn't, he will
If
tell
I
you
was
never
Lu
to
Yinzi,
reveal your true name
I
to
would
others,
choose that place and
especially to a
sacrifice
person
everyone
of
in
Mingdu.
Lizhu Prefecture.
Even
to
though you
awaken
have
the
some
stone
abilities,
statues.
you are still too young.
Qin Mu's expression was
Do you
uncertain.
know who am I?
Lizhu
He stood up,
Prefecture
was
and
in the
his tall
south of
and
Heavenly
sturdy
Saint
body
Academy,
was even taller
and
than
there was
Qin
also
Mu's
the
primordial
surging river
spirit
academy
that was
there.
over 30 yards tall.
Prime Minister Su Yunji
The
was a
surname
Grand
Kuei
Chancellor,
is a
there
big
while
surname
Yu
in
and
Mingdu
Chu
that has
and
given
Yu
birth
and
to many
Chuyan
gods,
were the chancellors.
and my surname is none
If they
other than
used the
Kuei.
life and death book to
His
sacrifice
voice was
everyone
extremely
in
loud.
Lizhu Prefecture,
My
not
name
only
in
could they get
religion
the entire
is Kuei
surging river
Wutsu.
academy in one fell
Of course,
swoop.
this
Even
name
my
is
Heavenly
also
Saint
fake.
Academy would be wiped
However,
out.
many people still
It's no
call
trouble
me King
for
Lu
Lu
Yinzi, and the rest
Qin
to
Mu's
wipe
heart
out
stirred
Heavenly
slightly,
Saint Academy
and he
along
asked,
the way as well. I met 2 gods that had the
Lizhu,
surname
Bazu.
Kuei. There are
One
more than
called
enough
Shaman
people
God
to
Kuei.
allow many stone
One of them called
statues
Kuei
to revive.
Qingpei.
May I know
Once
if they
the
have
stone
any
statues
relations
are
with
revived,
Senior? It's simple to
Kuei
wipe out a
Qingpei
few
is the the disciple of His Majesty
After that,
and is an
they can
outstanding
completely
talent
destroy
in our
eternal
Kuei family
peace
by activating
The
the
devil god
meteorological
Kuei
divine
said with a
weapons to
smile.
descend calamities.
Meanwhile, shaman god Kuei
When
is my
Qin Mu
disciple.
thought until
He
there,
was placed in
he
Mingdu
immediately
by the
ordered the
celestial
dragon
heavens
Chalene
and
to
he
head
learned
towards
under me.
Surging River Academy.
You are
in
still
Lisu.
alive after meeting them.
The speed of
So
the
you have
dragon
some
Chalene
methods.
was very fast.
However,
He
since
sprinted
you have seen
quickly on
shaman
the
god
surging
Kuei,
river and
you should
churned
know
up
he is
waves.
learning from me and know how
Two
dangerous
huge dragons
it is to
swam
reveal your
under
true
the
name
water
in front
and
of me.
followed the dragon Chalene
Qin Mu's
closely.
expression was ashen
When they reached
and he raised
River
his small
County,
case. Qin Mu ordered
Wu
the
Tzu
dragon
said
Chalene
with
to
a smile,
descend. It's useless.
On the 100 Years Mountain,
Even though
the
that was
god
opposite of
execution
Dyke River
mysterious
County,
knife is powerful,
a snow-white god
and I'm
with
far
a horn
inferior.
on his horse head
Your god
looked over from
execution
afar.
mysterious knife
Qin
can
Mu
never hit
waved
me
his
at all.
hand.
and God by she concealed himself. When you were dealing with the gods of Mingdu beside just the river now, was surging river I had academy, already seen the flaw and the reason in God why execution had chosen to build the academy. You had because of the knife to kill numerous gods under river. But you had never used this knife to deal with the divine surging river dragons hiding and rearing sovereign. When divine, you meet divine dragon king and God by she living there, you always used your flying sword to kill them. When they required the three gods to provide lessons, he couldn't just resist to give laughing out. And among them, the god by she was the mysterious knife they didn't need to spend much. Mingdu. Qin Mu hurried over to the gravely white and saw there was no hint of blood at all. Spirit weapons. King Wuxiu was very satisfied and said leisurely, on both sides when I saw you killing my subordinates, and some scholars were teaching the divine arts practitioners how to control the weapons. Now I can tell you. It was I am afraid of the god scholars of surging river academy knife. Didn't know that calamity the head of a strong practitioner and the place was still very peaceful. His gaze is like knives. Qin Mu made the dragon Chalene stop to take a look. He has killed countless gods. He saw that some and I won't make a move unless I see through it. That had 7 blades. However, and a small delicate pill furnace knife has already been seen through by medicinal stones and you can't hurt me at all. The blades would be able to disappointed and muttered. When the blades actually see me kill your subordinates would slice and along the ground and very quickly, a move, it overturned the field. After overturning the ground behind his back, one could then push the wind carriage forward to overturn other lands. Little brat. A tool what has their death got to do with me? Qin Mu was astonished. Even after they die, during eternal peace still resurrect in Mingdu. Divine arts practitioners, only those that cultivated wind divine that had their primordial were mostly hired and souls sucked away to plow the land by that divine knife used are completely dead. But however, someone had created what does that have kind of wind carriage spirit weapon? Since you know my disciple, utilized the energy shaman from medicinal stones to don't you want to see even more powerful ultimate arts? It was truly an elaborate concept. Qin Mu's complexion was horrifyingly pale, the scholar beside the wind carriage, and the scholar replied, wait a moment, other than wind carriages, Senior, there are also cloud my motive for coming to heavenly yin world, mining carriages, and furnaces for smelting metal, and his horns made him look like a mountain by Heavenly Works Hall. He said Heavenly Works Bureau. All right then. Imperial since I rarely meet any to be promoted while I'm on duty here, I shall give you some time. You'd have designed the spirit weapons your motive for everyday use. Qin Mu put on a serious face and said, if they are being popularized I'm here to find the goddess of heavenly yin. The medicinal stones wouldn't be enough for the usage, would they? Wuxiu seemed even to hear the most laughable thing and replied while laughing, for the herb to mature. Goddess of heavenly yin was eaten tens of thousands of years ago, and only the skin of the goddess is left. Grand Chancellor, what is right come to find her for? She is checking the medicinal fields with jade face poison use her skin from the Imperial Physician Bureau. Qin Mu's expression dimmed, and he muttered, Goddess of Heavenly Yin is dead. Is also here. How could this be? Isn't he with Empress Dowager and the rest of the beauties? It's impossible. Could he have a thing with high Goddess of Heavenly Yin as well? Is a sacred god born by nature, who can kill her. Why am I bad-mouthing Grandpa? You must be lying behind his back. I don't believe the farther Qin Mu walked, Wuxiu burst out into laughter and everyday use he could see. Her skin is suppressed in the sea. There were also scholars near Surging River Academy that were testing flying carts, you must which be could carry passengers into the sky. Qin Mu had a blank look in his eyes as he was slightly smaller you must be and didn't exhaust as many medicinal stones as flying ships, an alliance with Goddess of short distance flights. She is a natural-born god, some scholars the master of Heavenly Dragon Fridge. And selling the spirit weapons to the big families nearby. She couldn't have died. She couldn't have. Ice Dragon Fridge was square like a big cauldron beside him and but there was also a cover. Killing someone by crushing bronze their heart. Dragon sculptures I love to see an insufferably arrogant brat like you breaking down. With medicinal stones, let the green dragons you would breathe out icy breaths. Follow me. During summertime, I shall summon cool Goddess of Heavenly Yin for you to take a look. Food by making it harder for food to rot. In disappointment. There were mines beside the river. His footsteps were uneven, and numerous machines and he almost were mining while scholars on the ground supervising and recording at the side. He had to stumble forward to keep up. He even saw numerous scholars designing a floating city, and the grey sea they suddenly were constructing a small-scale waves and planned to let the city float in the sea grew more and more intense. The formation divine art of eternal peace has already become proficient to such an extent from the sea. He went forward to check on the formation skills, was vast, and the scholars were from heavenly wearing any clothing. They recognized him as the Grand Rainbow as her clothes, and immediately took out the blueprints for him to look through, and seemed to be slightly hopeful. Qin Mu couldn't help being astonished. He shouted, Goddess, the blueprint still alive for the floating city Goddess, used formation structures I'm here on an order to form an alliance capital, and Saint Arrival Mountain please of Heavenly kill this scoundrel. Those formations borrowed the power from heaven and earth, You
and
can't
the formation
see through this,
structures,
right?
had already surpassed
Goddess
his
of Heavenly
attainments
Yin
in
doesn't
formation
look like
skills.
she is just skin.
If
But
I
she's
didn't
actually
research
empty
them out,
on the inside.
who could it be?
Her body
Qin
is
Mu
filled
was
with
stunned.
black sand and those souls
Could
that
Grandpa
shattered
blind have run over
She's
to
not
Saint
herself
Arrival
anymore,
Mountain,
and
little
only
jade
skin
capital
remains of her
to dig out their
corporeal
formation
body.
skills?
Her primordial
The divine
spirit
arts
doesn't
of
even
eternal
exist
peace
anymore.
were seeing new changes.
She
and
is
it
already
truly
a
astonished
starved
him.
corpse.
From the time
He turned
left
around
eternal
and revealed
peace
a
to find
peculiar
Yang
smile.
Jingjing and met Saint Woodcutter,
Now, you can die.
Elder Angler, and the
Qin Mu
incident
did
in
a
Heavenly
final
Yin
struggle
well
to
by
finally
opening
returning
the
to
small
eternal
case.
peace.
It
Two
was probably
bloodlights
just 4
flashed
months'
towards
time.
Wutsu.
The paths,
Wutsu
skills,
laughed,
and divine
and
arts
his body
had
vanished
actually
into the
developed
darkness
to that extent,
as though
it
formed
was truly
by countless
powerful.
grains of black sand.
However, wasn't it a
The
little
two
too
lights
powerful?
streaked across his body.
This shouldn't
but he was
be
still
just Grandpa
unharmed.
Mute and Grandpa
As
Blind's
expected,
work. The divine
Saint
arts of
Woodcutter
Mingdu can
is
indeed
probably
counter the
pushing
God
the reform
execution
along too.
mysterious knife. He has a lot of knowledge
Wutsu
about
smiled,
everything, and from Elder
The two
Angler's
bloodlights
words,
circled
the
around
reformer
him,
founding
but no
emperor
matter
was
fast
pushed
they
by
were,
teacher
they
Woodcutter.
could never hit his true
Qin Mu
form.
muttered to himself, "I'm done playing."
Woodcutter
and the people
Let
of
me send
disabled
you guys
elderly
off.
village pushing forward the paths,
Wutsu bowed
skills,
towards Qin
and
Mu
divine
while he
arts
was in Mingdu
could indeed
and
strengthen
said with a
eternal
smile,
peace in a short
I
time.
can worship you to death.
Everyone's quality of accommodation,
Even if there's a world
and
between
food would
us,
rise drastically.
I can still do it.
It could also save more time for divine
take a bow
arts
from me.
practitioners to cultivate
With the bow,
and to
Qin
research
Mu's mind
even
was
more
blown,
profound techniques,
and his
world started spinning.
However,
the most
in the
crucial
next
point
moment
was still
he was in
medicinal
front of a
stones.
large devil god.
The spirit weapons
The
for
devil
everyday
god
use
had horns
required
on its
far
head
more
and
medicinal
hooves on its
stones.
feet.
And even though spirit
Devil
stones
flames burned
could be
around
dug
its
from
body,
mining, and it
it
was
was
none
still
other than
slightly hard
Wutsu's
to grow the
primordial
herbs.
spirit. He came
It
to
stretched
surging
out
River
its hand
Academy
to grab
and was
him.
stunned. Before he could
saw
even
tens
grab
of thousands
him,
of
his
fertile
gaze suddenly
fields and
became
herbs
blank,
were being grown
and he looked
everywhere.
behind Qin Mu foolishly.
Numerous scholars of
In
surging
the
River
darkness
Academy
behind Qin Mu
and Heavenly Saint
three
Academy
eyes suddenly
were
split apart
executing
in the
creation,
darkness,
divine
and they
art
flashed
in the
with a
medicinal
strange
fields.
light that had the shape
The
of a
scholars were
butterfly's wings.
executing Earth Eon creation
Next,
technique.
the face of a chubby
But it was
baby
also
gradually
different
appeared
from
from
the
the
Earth
darkness.
Eon
creation technique of
This
the past.
is
There
He was
seemed to be some
dumbfounded.
creation, divine
Two
art
Qin
from
Feng
Crimson
Qing.
Light era mixed in.
The fluster on Qin Mu's
Qin Mu
face
got
had
the
long
dragon
vanished,
Chalene to stop
and replacing
and
it
looked
was
at
a
the calm
fields.
expression. He saw
King
those
Wutsu
scholars of the
come
academy
meet my
using
older
Earth
brother.
Eon creation
Wutsu
technique
felt
to
his
assist
blood
the herbs
run
to
cold.
grow and cultivated
He was
their medicinal
incomparably
energy
huge
in front of Qin Mu.
Herbs that
But in
required
front of the
dozens of
chubby
years
baby's
to grow
face
could be
he was
harvested
pitifully
in
small.
just a few hours.
The chubby baby
These
stretched his
medicinal
hand to
herbs
grab
are growing
him,
very well,
and even with his
and can be
remarkable
harvested
abilities,
in just a
he
short
couldn't
while.
break free.
Mua,
The baby put him into
Qin
his
Mu
mouth.
heard
Apothecary's voice
My
and
old
hurriedly
brother
took a
and
look.
I share a name.
He saw Apothecary
Before he
surveying
died,
the fields,
he heard
and
Qin
Death
Mu's
was also
voice.
there.
That's
Beside
because
them
we
was
share a
high
soul,
official
and we
Suyunji,
share a
a
corporeal
first-rank
body.
high official,
The
who
chubby
had long
baby
opened
swallowed
access
him up in his
through her
mouth
divine
and
bridge,
started to chew
cultivating
vigorously.
into a god. He suddenly grabbed
Qin Mu
towards
had met
Qin
her
Mu
in the
in
capital
excitement.
city.
She was an
Bad
old woman,
younger brother
but she had
died.
reversed her growth and
And at
turned
that
herself
moment,
into a beautiful
Qin Mu's
woman around
corporeal
the
body
age of
took out
30.
a willow leaf and
Every
stuck it
action
gently
and
back on
movement
the heart
from her
of
was
his brows.
radiating with magnificence.
Before the chubby baby could
Death
grab
had
Qin Mu,
already grown,
a
his
formless
ears
force
out,
came
while
sweeping
Apothecary
over
wore
and
a bronze
pulled him
mask
into
as
the abyss.
usual.
Bad
Qin Mu
brother.
looked at numerous scholars
After
of
the
Heavenly
chubby baby
Saint
landed
cult.
back on the ground,
They must
he
have been
suddenly
brought
sat
over
down
by
on
them.
his butt and looked around.
They intended to give pointers
He realized
regarding
he
the
had
art of
fallen
creation
back into
to
the
surging
seal of
River
Qin
Academy.
word land.
Qin Mu
The
walked
white-beard
forward
elder
with a smile.
and Crimson Emperor were
Grandpa
avoiding him by
Apothecary,
hiding in the
How
mountains.
is your creation, divine art?
Bad brother.
I'll
Why
eat you
are you
once
still
I catch
wearing
you.
a mask?
The chubby baby
Apothecary
erupted
touched
with
his
fury
mask
and
and
crawled
shook his
with
head.
his hands and feet towards
I'm already
the mountains. It's better for me not to
planned
show
to
my
catch
true
the
face.
clone
of Heaven Duke and the
Otherwise,
consciousness of the Crimson Emperor
Pies.
to vent his anger. He gave another
I'll beat
sigh.
the old one first
Death
before
sneered and
beating
said,
the three heads.
So it's remarkable
Both
when you are
of them
good-looking.
hurriedly
Avoided him.
How
And the
tacky.
clone of Heaven Duke said,
Apothecary
There's no
said
need
with a
to be
smile.
afraid of him.
Yes,
This
it
is
is
the seal of
remarkable.
Earth Count. It
Death
will change
pretended not to
continuously.
hear anything.
He won't be able
Both
to
of them
catch
like
us.
to squabble.
And
Crimson
Qin Mu was
Emperor
long
said,
used to the sight.
You also said
Thus,
that the previous
he didn't
time
put it to
and then we got caught. Death looked at Qin Mu and won't happen this time. Why didn't you go to Heavenly Saint Academy his body and come here instead in relief? Qin Mu's gaze flickered, and he said with a smile, sank. I was passing by this place. So I had come to take a look at Dragon Rearing and revealed a smile and visit Grand Chancellor Su, Goddess of Heavenly Yin. We have finally her lips and said, "You rarely come to my surging river academy." My divine hand might be able to help you gather Heavenly Saint Academy to consult on some questions. Just as he said teaching, Goddess of Heavenly Yin, who was standing in the sea, yawned and stared at a flower silently. Qin Mu's hair
Apothecary
stood on
and
end,
Deaf instantly
and
understood
before he
him
could even
when they saw him
execute any
acting like
divine
that.
art. An apothecary
sprinted
said
back
with a
on the
smile,
bridge
and
"High
quickly
official
reached where the god
I'm
of founding
slightly
emperor
tired,
was.
so I'll be going back
Without
to take
any
a rest."
explanation, he
High
grabbed him
official
and ran.
just needs to wait 2
Loud
hours,
crumbling
and you
sounds
can
of
let the
palaces
scholars harvest
crushed
the herbs.
underfoot came from behind.
Remember to preserve
After
some
goddess
seeds.
of heavenly Yin's foot
Su
missed,
Yunji nodded.
she turned around to chase.
Apothecary and Deaf
Her body
turned
stretched
to walk
all the way
towards
out of the
Heavenly
space,
Saint Academy,
and every step
she
Qin Mu
took was
followed
1,000
after
quickly,
miles.
and Deaf said,
However,
looking at
the
your
speed of
expression,
her taking a
there's
step wasn't
definitely
too
nothing
fast,
good this time.
yet no one could match up
Say
with the
it.
speed
What
she
is
was
it this
moving.
time?
It's
I
those
suspect
starved Luyent's
that are
is about to
controlling the
use the
body of
life
the goddess
and death book on this place.
Qin Mu quickly
to wipe
guessed
out
the
all
reason
of the life
why the skin of
in
goddess
this
of heavenly
prefecture
Yin
would
would
lay
let
her
Qin Mu
hands on them.
What?
Without thinking,
Apothecary
he immediately
and Deaf
took
gave
out the
out
life
cries
and
of
death
astonishment
book
to shine
and
at
Qin
the
Mu
magnificent
hurriedly said,
goddess.
"Softer." He
Don't
thought to
alarm
himself,
the enemies.
Goddess of heavenly Yin has
Apothecary
already
started
been
nagging
nagging
and
and
hastened
hastened
his
his
footsteps.
footsteps. So the starved
Quickly
ghosts
tidy up
actually
our
possess
valuables
the goddess
and leave
of
this
heavenly
place
Yin
immediately.
Which
Let us
also
hurry back
means
to
goddess of
THG.
heavenly Yin is a starved
No,
ghost
back
herself,
to disabled elderly village,
shining from the life and death
Baz who
book.
isn't safe
The goddess
either.
only paused for a moment
Qin
as
Mu
black
grabbed
smoke
his
poured
hand,
out from her
and
eyes,
Apothecary
nose,
struggled
ears,
to no
and
avail.
mouth. He was
She raised
currently
her
on the
feet
life
once
and
more
death
and
realm,
chased after
but
them.
since his cultivation was
She is
slow,
too huge.
his corporeal
The life
body
and
was
death
far
book
inferior
can't shine
to Qin
onto her
Mu's.
entire body.
Grandpa
Qin Mu
Apothecary
used his vital
you can stay
chi
here as
and
long
controlled
as
the
you like.
life and death book
Qin
to
Mu
float
said with a
behind his
smile.
head. As long as
He
Luyentsu
sprinted
doesn't kill
furiously and
personally,
utilized the
I
heaven
can still
pilfering
handle the
divine legs
situation
that crippled
if only the
him to
life
extreme.
and death book is
raising his
used.
speed again and again.
How are you going to handle
Senior, run. When you guys are
Qin
dead,
Mu felt exhausted
I will revive
from
you
dragging
guys.
the god of founding emperor
Qin Mu
along.
said with a smile.
He couldn't
Don't
unleash
worry,
his full
as
speed,
long as the corporeal
so he
body
hurriedly
doesn't
urged
rot.
to the god.
It isn't too
The
troublesome
god of
to
founding
summon your
emperor
souls
immediately
back.
took off,
And
and his
Apothecary
speed was much
hesitated
faster
for a
than
moment
Qin Mu,
and looked at
leaving
Deaf.
him in his dust.
Deaf said,
Qin
"What's
Mu
the
was
use
stunned
of
and
summoning
said
our souls
angrily,
back? So that's how loyal
Can you
you are.
defeat Luyentsu and
I
the rest?
even shed a few tears for
I
you.
can't.
If you can
Qin
run
Mu
so
shook
fast,
his head and said,
you should have
before
brought me
Supreme
along as
Emperor
well."
Heaven was destroyed.
Suddenly,
Luyentsu
goddess of
and the
heavenly
rest
Yin
met
stretched
with
her
her
palm
palm
out
out
to
to
grab
human
at him.
emperor.
The
The
palm
four
from
of them
outer
headed
space
towards
rubbed
spirit
against the
energy
atmosphere
mutual
of
shift
heavenly
bridge,
Yin world,
and first
causing
ancestor
flames
human
to
emperor
ignite
never
from the
made a
friction.
move on them. This shows
However,
that he is very
the
wary
flames
of
were
them.
unable to burn her
On
at
the
all.
other hand,
They
her
also
palm
didn't
was like
dare
a
to make
vast
a move
land
on
falling
first
from the
ancestor
sky
right
as
away,
she grabbed at Qin
and it
Mu.
shows that first ancestors'
Behind
abilities
Qin Mu's
are
head,
above theirs.
the life and death book
The cultivation
shone
of the three
and
senior
before goddess
and
of
junior
heavenly
brothers
Yin's hand
should
could
be
reach.
between god
Her
execution
fingers
stage
turned limp
realm
one
and
after
jade
another
pool
as
realm.
though deflated.
Apothecary
Yet
asked,
even then,
they are
when
even
this palm
stronger than
landed,
Fu
it was enough to completely
Qin
cover
Mu
Qin
nodded.
Mu.
Much
Seeing
stronger
how
than
Qin Mu was
Fu
about to be covered by the land-sized
Fu
palm,
is most likely on
countless
jade
runes
pool
swirled
realm,
around his
but
body,
his abilities
and his
are
teleportation,
inferior.
divine art erupted
They are the
out.
disciples of Mingdu black
the runes
deity.
swirled furiously
After all,
around him
and
like
what they
yellow
cultivated
joss papers,
is an emperor's
and when the
throne
runes
technique.
turned into ashes,
Apothecary
Qin Mu
composed
vanished
himself
along with
and
them.
said,
"We are far
in the
from
next
being their
moment,
opponents."
Qin Mu
So
appeared
why
1,000
don't we
miles
leave and
away,
go back to the
and
great
countless
ruins appeared around
We
him
can't
again.
save everyone,
He
but we can
disappeared,
save ourselves.
and he was another 1,000 miles
Qin
away
Mu broke
when he
into
reappeared.
a smile.
His
But
body
ever
flashed
since I was
repeatedly,
young,
and
Grandpa
even if he had to
Apothecary
risk exhausting
has been
all of
teaching
his
me that all
cultivation,
healers treat
he had
patients
to rush
like
out
their
of heavenly
children,
Yin world
and also
before
human
goddess of
lives
heavenly
are greater
Yin
than
caught
heaven.
up to him.
Didn't we
Behind
learn
him,
medical
the
knowledge
low
to
bridge
be able
crumbled
to save even
continuously
more
from
people?
goddess of heavenly Yin
Is
stomps.
Grandpa Apothecary
The
planning
long
to
bridge
go against
couldn't
your
endure the
original
weight of a
aspiration?
natural-born goddess. After
Apothecary
all,
smiled from
Qin
extreme
Mu
anger.
was not far from shore.
Now
and
you
at
are
that moment,
starting to lecture
and
me
countless
instead.
monsters swarmed over
Let
to
me
latch
teach
on
you
him
another
just
sentence.
as he was about to teleport
Learning
again.
medicine can't save eternal
Scram.
peace.
Qin
Are
Mu
you listening
executed
to me
the
or
life
not?
and death book, and
Death,
the monsters
your
turned
abilities
into
are higher
skins.
than mine.
Seal
Above
him in a
his head,
painting.
Goddess
We shall
of
return
heavenly
to Heavenly
Yin's
Saint
palm
Academy
smacked
this
down
instant.
ruthlessly.
We shall bring Granny
Boom.
and the rest back. The sea of heavenly
Death
Yin
covered
covered
his
his ears
trembled
violently,
silently, I can't
and the ground on the shore
I'm a deaf
also
man.
shook non-stop.
Apothecary was
Astonishing
furious
cracks
and was about
stretched
to
out
fall
in
out
all
when
directions,
Death hurriedly said,
and loud rumbles
"Since
came
Mu
from
is
all
here,
directions.
he must have some kind of plan."
Lava spewed out
Why
from
don't
the
you make a
cracks,
decision
and
after
yet the
listening
lava
to
there
him?
was grey as well.
Apothecary held
Goddess
himself
of Heavenly
back and
Yin
raised
said,
her palm.
"If there's no
and the
chance
bridge
of
broke.
coming out alive,
The
we
sea
will
had
have to
been
leave
drained
immediately."
out, and a dried up
Even
seabed
if I
appeared.
have to use poison to knock
the
you out,
seawater that was
we will still
originally there
return
had
to disabled
vaporized.
elderly village.
As she raised her
Qin
palm,
Mu said with a
countless
smile,
runes flew
"Even though
around
we aren't
under her
Liu
palm.
Yin's opponent, we
In the
still
center
have
of
other
the
runes."
runes was a huge sword pellet
If I'm not
that
wrong,
was like a metal ball,
Saint Woodcutter,
and the sword
first
pellet was
ancestor
actually
human
smashed
emperor
in on one side. and Elder
Whoosh
Angler should all be in
the
Lisu
ruins
at this
burned
moment,
and the metal ball
waiting
vanished,
for Liu Yunxiu
appearing
and
in
the
the
rest
town
to appear
beside
the sea. He said calmly,
Goddess of Heavenly
if I can
Yin
guess
was
their
in
target
doubt,
is
as
Lisu,
she didn't
they
see
would
Qin
Qin
Mu,
who had teleported
Apothecary
away.
sucked in a cold breath
She
and
looked
muttered,
around,
if they can
but she
guess
still
it,
couldn't find
why
him.
aren't they moving the people
In
of
the
Lisu?
town, the god of founding
Why are they
emperor
letting
popped
the
his
people
head
of
out
Lisu bear
and
the
saw the
fate of
sword
being
pellet
killed?
clanging around in the town.
Because we can't find Liu
Qin Mu
Yunxiu,
tumbled around
so
in
we
the
can
sword
only
pellet
sacrifice the
as the
people
metal
of
ball
Lisu.
bounced up and down.
Qin Mu said,
In the sword
furthermore,
pellet,
Qin
I've
Mu
already
propped
spread
up Self
carefree
Guide
sword
out,
and used it as
and there
an
are quite
axle.
a number of people who
Goddess of
cultivated
Heavenly
the divine
Yin had
art
nearly
in eternal
flattened him
peace.
along with the sword pellet.
With the divine
and he
art,
had used carefree
we can bring
sword
back
to
those
not
who
get
died
smacked
because
to
of the
death
life
by
and
Goddess
death
of
book.
Heavenly Yin.
Thus,
However,
the risk is
the
worth
sword
taking,
pellet deformed
and we
from
must
the
take
blow.
it. When
Death
the sword
asked,
pellet
what
bounced
if
up
their
once
target
more,
isn't
the
Lisu?
metal ball broke open
What if
and
it's the
separated
capital
into
city?
8,000 swords.
I'm here, they will come.
Qin Mu leaped out
Qin
and
Mu
stretched
said
his body.
resolutely, I'm
With
the bait
one
that
hand
will attract
raised,
them.
8,000
I will
swords
make
collided
Liu
with
Yunxiu
one another
and the rest give up on the
transformed
other
into
two
a small
targets
sword
and
pellet,
only
which
focus on
landed in
Lisu.
his palm.
Millions
Suddenly,
of people already
a
died
crack
in
came
Yuji
from his
County,
palm,
and
the
it was
tiny
the
sword
life
pellet
and death
exploded
book that took their
turning
lives
into a
last
fine
night.
dust that fell from
I've
the sky.
already ordered everyone
Qin Mu's
that had
expression
cultivated
turned
Soul
dark
Guide to
as he
hurry
looked
to
at his
Yuji
palm.
County and save
Other
the
than
people.
carefree sword that was in his
Tonight should be
palm,
the moment
only
they
a
will
pile
lay
of
their
metal
hands
dust
on
was
Lisu.
left.
He had
Apothecary
withstood the
asked,
palm
in
from
that
Goddess
case,
of Heavenly Yin,
how would they
and
know
didn't
you are
die,
in Lisu?
but the sword pellet used
Qin
to
Mu
block the
said,
blow from her
they
had
possess the
shattered
life
into
and
powder.
death book,
So
there
they
will
will
naturally
naturally
know
know
from
where I
Qin
am.
Mu's vital chi previously.
Using the life and
but
death
once
book to
Qin Mu
shine,
took back his vital
everyone's
chi
name
from
will
the sword
appear.
pellet. It
Tonight,
couldn't endure the damage
I need a
any
high
longer
ground to
and
cast a
exploded
spell.
into a fine dust.
Right after they
The
cast
new
their
won't
spell
come
to harm
if
the
the old
people
doesn't
here.
go.
I shall revive
Qin Mu
everyone
still
in
felt
Lisu.
a pain in his heart.
Death said in a hurry.
It was the
There's
most
an observatory
compatible
in
spirit
Surging
weapon
River
that
Academy,
he had made
and the terrain
when he
there
had
is
become a
very
divine
high.
arts practitioner.
You can see everything
It was a
in
spirit
Lisu
weapon
by
he had
standing on the
planned to use his
observatory.
entire life.
Qin
But it
Mu
shattered
clapped
into
his
fine
hands and
dust
said,
just like
"Good."
that. The
I
most
shall
crucial
cast my
point
spell there.
was that the materials
On
required
that very
for
night,
refining the spirit
Qin Mu
weapons
brought the
were
dragon
exchanged
Chalene
with
to
the
the
observatory
observatory
by pawning everything
Apothecary
he had.
and Death stood on the edge
To refine the
and
swords
looked
to the
nervously
extent
up
of
into
flowing
the sky.
water. He had
The
forged
moon
them with
was
the devil
round and
fire
bright.
and Li fire together.
The four
and
corners
only
of the
then was his
observatory
sword pellet
had the
completed.
sculptures of the four divine
At
beasts,
that point,
which were the
other
green
than
dragon,
carefree sword,
white tiger,
all of his other
vermilion
swords
bird,
completely
and black
shattered.
tortoise.
How could he
They
not be
each
pained?
represented the four celestial
Luckily,
palaces of the
I
east,
scanned a bunch
west,
of Buddha
south,
vitality
and
crimson
north.
chromium from Sakra
In the
Buddha.
center was a
This
huge
kind of
armillary
metal
sphere
is a
carved
unique
with the
metal
stars.
to the Buddha realm.
Qin Mu lit
The
up
amount
the
I've
lanterns
scanned
in the
is
surroundings
enough for me to make
and
another
stood on the
sword
armillary
pellet
sphere
made from
to
Buddha
wait quietly.
vitality crimson chromium.
The moonlight was bright.
Qin Mu let
and
out
it gradually
a shaky breath
rose to the top
and
of the
looked
sky.
at the towering goddess of
The
Heavenly
night was
Yin,
silent,
who was still
and at that
searching
moment,
around for him.
there was already no
The god of
sounds from
founding
Surging
emperor
River
ran
Academy.
out again and came
Only
to
the
the front of
torrential
Qin Mu.
waters beside the seashore
Qin Mu
continued
had a
to
black
flow
face,
day and night,
and his anger was hard
the
to
night
appease.
was slightly chilly.
No loyalty.
Qin Mu revealed his
The god
3
blushed
heads
with
and
shame
6
and
arms
stretched
to
out
stare
his
at
hands
the
around him.
surroundings.
He did
The
a running
moonlight
action,
was as calm
but
as
couldn't
still
water
water
as
along
it
no
scattered
matter
down
what.
on the land,
He
lighting up
shrugged
the
his
mountains
shoulders
and
helplessly.
terrains.
I
The
see.
subtle fragrance of the plants
Qin Mu
nearby
came to a
drifted in the
realization.
air, while the mottled mountain
You don't
range
have magic
was
power
like
or
ferocious
corporeal
beasts
body,
crouching, and even your
Qin Mu
primordial
waited
spirit
for a
is
long
gone,
time,
thus you
and
can't
even
bring
when
me
the
to
moon
run.
moved past culmination,
All right, he
I'm
never
not
saw the
angry
life
anymore.
and death book flying over.
I need your help to find
Could
a
they
high
not be
location,
coming? A place where I can
That's
shine
not
my
possible.
life and death book on Goddess
Fatty
of
dragon,
Heavenly Yin's
fatty
face.
dragon.
The god of
Qin
founding
Mu gave a
emperor
shout,
immediately
and the
ran
dragon
out of the
Chalene
town,
laid on the
and when he saw
observatory
Qin Mu not
motionlessly.
following, he
Qin
immediately
Mu was
stopped
bewildered
to
and
beckon
looked
him.
at Apothecary and
Qin
Death.
Mu hurried forward,
Death
and
was
the
sitting
two
in
of
the
them
lotus
leapt into the
position
distance
while staring at him.
Not long after,
Apothecary
they
stood
arrived at
beside
a
the
tall
green
tower
dragon
beside the
statue,
sea, and his face was
Qin Mu
hidden in the
looked up
shade
and was astonished at
Qin
how
Mu
tall the
jumped
tower
down
was.
from the armillary sphere
sphere,
heavenly
and
yin
came
world
to
was
both
dim,
of their bodies
and
to
he
check
couldn't
if they
see
were
far
breathing.
out into the distance.
His mind was blown.
However,
when Qin Mu
Apothecary
executed
and
Death
Nine
only
Heavens'
had their
eyes
bodies
awakening
left,
skill,
he could
their
still see
souls had
dozens of
actually
miles.
vanished without a trace.
Yet, when he looked
He
up,
flew quickly
he couldn't
to the
see the
dragon
top of the
Chelene,
tower,
and the dragon Chelene's
the grey
soul
fog
had
circled
actually
around the
vanished
waist
as well.
of the tower,
And
Qin
he
Mu's
truly didn't
blood
know
ran
how
cold,
tall the tower was.
and he hurriedly ran down
the body
the
of the
observatory.
tower seemed to be constructed
He ran
by
through
some
surging
divine
river
metal
academy
that gave off a
and
black
saw
colored
lanterns
sheen.
lighting up the floor
What
of
is this
heavenly
tower
records.
used for?
Numerous
It's probably
scholars were
even
browsing
higher
through all
than
kinds
crimson
of
light
divine
heaven
arts and
suppressing
scriptures
floor
in the
in
building,
Kai-Shi's hand.
but everyone was frozen
When
in
he
place
thought
and
until
not
there,
moving.
he saw the god of
He
founding
sprinted
emperor
down the
leaping
corridors
up quickly
and even saw
scaling
young
the
scholars
eaves on
that
each
hadn't
level.
yet slept. Qin Mu
The girls were in the arms of boys,
divine legs,
and they should be
ran up
whispering
the
sweet
tower.
nothings to each other.
One leaped and one
However,
ran,
as
their
they rushed
bodies
up
were
the top
already
of the
empty,
tower,
and their souls had
when
already
Qin Mu
vanished.
rushed up the peak of this tower,
Qin Mu
the
passed
god
by
had already
Suyunji's
been
hall,
waiting there for him,
and she was currently
It
meditating.
was obvious he was much
However,
faster.
her primordial
Qin Mu
spirit had
exclaimed
also
to
vanished,
himself,
and took out the
"Impossible
life and death book to place in the
Impossible.
hands of the god. They couldn't have
I will
activated
cast
the
a
life
spell on the
and
top
death
of the
book
tower,
without
and
alarming
you shall
me.
stand here.
Dragon rearing
When I, Lord
sovereign,
goddess of heavenly Yin over,
Qin Mu shouted
you shall
loudly,
open up the book,
"Where
and
is
use
dragon
the book
rearing
to shine
sovereign?"
her.
The
The god
river
of
water
founding
flowed,
emperor nodded
but there was no
repeatedly,
reply,
and as Qin Mu was
In
about to
surging
jump down
river,
the top of the
two
tower,
huge dragons
he heard
were
a
floating
flapping
on the
sound
water
from
surface,
behind, with their belly facing
He turned around and saw the
Their
god
dragon
open
horns
horns
were caught
and
by
death
the
book,
dam, and looking
their
at the
bodies
shining
trembled
page
like waves
before
from the
deflating.
impact of the current.
Qin Mu didn't
On
know whether
100
to
Years
cry
Mountain,
or laugh.
God by she seemed to become
He
a
took the
stone
life
statue
and death book,
and stood
which
on a
was still
gravestone
shining at
without
him.
moving.
Without the
The
shine of
entire
the life
and
and death
and
book,
all of the counties
the black
were
sand
deathly
flowed
silent
back and poured into the
How
skin
did
of
they
the god.
execute their spell?
Soon, he
There
inflated
couldn't be no
again.
trace at all.
Qin Mu passed
Qin
the life
Mu's
and
body
death
turned
book
cold,
into his
and
hands
he
again
paced
and
to and
said,
fro, "This is the front."
Beads of cold sweat
This
rolled
is the
down
back.
his forehead, and
Don't
he
mix
suddenly
them up.
raised his head to look at the
If you
bright
mix
moon
them
in
up,
the sky.
we're both dead.
The bright moon
The god
was
of
perfectly
founding emperor
round.
nodded his head.
Today
and beat
is
his
the
chest.
first day of the lunar month. Qin Mu
That's
took in a
right.
deep breath
Today
and
is the
shouted,
first day.
"Goddess of
So
heavenly
why
Yin,
is there a
I am
moon?"
here."
Qin
His
Mu's body
voice rang
trembled
out
and shouted,
and his hands
"They are
rubbed
hidden
together.
on the moon.
His vital
Teacher
chi
Woodcutter,
transformed
first
into the
ancestor
million
human
bird
emperor.
vital chi.
Do you guys
and
hear
he
me?
spread a huge fireball
Thump.
out.
A
The
person
light
dropped
was like
down
a blazing
from a
cloud
cloud
in
that lit
midair
up the surroundings
and crashed not far away
The
from Qin
surroundings
Mu.
were silent.
And the
Qin Mu
god of
looked at
founding
that
emperor
person
held
and
onto
saw
the
that
life
he was
and
carrying
death
an
book
axe while his
nervously.
face was planted in
He
the
dared
dirt.
not put his guard
The
down.
corners of Qin Mu's eyes
At that
trembled,
moment,
and
the
he
land
saw a
suddenly
second
trembled
person falling
violently
from the
as
sky.
incomparably heavy footsteps
First
rang
ancestor,
out.
human emperor smashed
Special
a huge
episode
hole
part
in the palace of
258.
Surging River Academy.
Qin Mu took in a long
Next,
breath
Fu
and
Rilluo,
suppressed the
Kai
palpitation
Shi,
in his
heavenly
heart.
teacher fisherman,
And
together
the rest
goddess
came
of
falling
heavenly
from the
Yin
clouds.
soul.
It was
Qin
impossible
Mu
with
roared,
just soul guide.
and the gate of heaven influence
Soul guide
instantly
was a
opened
divine
up
art
behind him
that could guide one's soul
At that
back from
moment,
Mingdu,
three
allowing
figures
the soul
walked
down
to
from the
return
bright
back
into
moon.
his corporeal body.
This video will end
Meanwhile,
here.
goddess of heavenly Yin was eaten until only her skin was left. Her soul might also have been eaten and turned into part of the black sand in heavenly Yin world. If he wanted to gather her soul, he would have to make some changes to Soul Guide. Qin Mu was also enlightened by the god of founding emperor, and he thought of changing Soul Guide to gather goddess of heavenly Yin's soul.